Hello everyone, this is a video about switch statements. Switch statements in some languages called switch case or select statement. They have different names, but in C++ it's a switch, and it's very similar to an if statement. I set up some code here to demonstrate um, the difference between an if and a switch. So just to show quickly, I have a simple method defined here just to say something. And what is that doing? It is down here defined. It's just printing out the string, whatever string I pass, and just wrapping it in quotes. Okay. Uh, so let's go ahead and take a look. And what we have here is a pretty basic if statement, right? So we've defined an integer here. It's 1. And we're just saying, okay, we're going to check the value of num. If num equals 1, we're going to print this, say num was 1. If it's not going to be, if it's not 1, then we'll say it's not 1. Obvious. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that quickly. And again, to reiterate from another video, in case you're not familiar with this, this is the compile step, and with this operator, we're saying if we're done compiling, then the next thing we should do is execute our output of this compilation step. So it's just a shorthand, so we don't have to do 2 commands per iteration here. Okay, so back to what we were saying. So num equals 1. Great. Okay, so let's say that we had something similar, and we'll say if num was 2, and let's say it's 2. Okay, so this is kind of just a basic thing. It's still 1, right? Of course. So now we'll say 2 here. So now num is 2, so we should skip this and hit this block. Num was 2. Okay, and now let's go ahead and step up again and say num equals 3. Now what will we get? Num was not 1. And we'll say not 1 or 2, actually. And there you go. So it's very basic if you're familiar with if statements. It's just checking multiple conditions. Now say we have a whole series of numbers. So we have, for some reason, 10 numbers that we're expecting, right? And so if it's 1, we want to do something. If it's 2, we want to do something, etc., right? This could get pretty big and cumbersome. As you see, it's kind of getting big already with just 2 cases in a default here. So that's where a switch comes in. Very, very similar. So you have your keyword, and that's a nice little autocomplete there, but we have our expression. So we'll say num. So num is the thing we're checking. So up here, we said, is num equal to 1? Well, here we're just saying switch for num, and we're going to do every case down here, we're going to check, right? We'll say, we'll say 1 here, right? And if it's 1, we'll say it was 1 in the switch. Oops. Okay. All right. And here we will say I don't know what it was. We do actually. Let's just say something different. Say the number was not expected. It was, and then we'll append that. So this way you give the user some output. We're saying these are the things we're expecting, and if it's not one of these things, which we only have one case at this point, but that will go down to this, and this is kind of nice to give user output, saying at least, okay, I didn't know what that was, but here it is for you in case you need to know. Right, let's take a look. All right. What do we got going here? I see. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. and rerun so we don't have clogged. There we go. Alright, so num here, why is it blowing up on us? It shouldn't. Case num. Okay, default. Am I missing something? Okay, and let's clear, and we'll go back here, and we'll say to string. There we go. And let's try it again. Here we are. There's our output. Okay. So what were we saying? We were saying case 1 is if num equals 1, we would do this. If it doesn't equal 1, we're doing this. Okay, and so the number right now is 3. So obviously we fall to this. Okay, so now if we go like this, we'll say 2 or 3. And this is hard coding, but let's just do it for now. Oops. Alright, and there we are. It's still the same because we haven't changed our value. So we will go here and say num equals 2. Okay, and what does that give us? 2, it recognizes it. And 3. There we go. It's 3. And now let's say 5. Oops. And there you go. The number was not expected. Okay, so you can kind of get the idea. So this is very basic. We're just doing something here as if it were an if statement. But you can see already it's kind of more compact, right? You could see that just this was 2 and a default is already the same size basically as 1, 2, 3 and a default. So it's just nicer, and for certain situations it fits much more. It's just much more streamlined. So now this break statement here we should cover. What this is saying is that once we hit this case, the break is saying, okay, we hit the case we're interested in. Now we bail out of this case statement, right? So what would happen for a test here if we get rid of this? So now this is a fall through. So this would be if it's case 1 or 2. And so typically it wouldn't be like this. It might be, but you would do some sort of logic. So if it's like a certain type of a thing or another type of a thing, you might want to do the same action, right? So that's what you say. If it's this type or that type, do this action, right? So for numbers, it doesn't make as much sense, but let's go ahead and run. We didn't switch our number. Let's switch it to 1 here. And again, it was 1 or 2. You got it. All right, what else? Let's do a 2 to make sure that's looking for that. There you go, 1 or 2. So that's the idea here, is you can have a fall through. So instead of doing something up here, okay, so say we have our if statement again, and we will reconstitute that, and we could do something like this. This, or if num equals 2, and get rid of this. Okay. And so this is kind of the same as this fall through here. And we're going to get rid of this just so you can see how more compact it is. So this is roughly the equivalent of this line here. So let's go ahead and show that, and you can see num was not 1 or 2. But what is num? It's 3. Shooting ourselves in the foot on a minute by minute basis. Okay, let's go there. It was 1 or 2 in the if. It was 1 or 2 in the switch. Fantastic. So you get the idea. So they're very similar, but there are definitely arguments to say that switches are great when needed. So I just wanted to cover that to show you some options, and hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully I didn't confuse anybody too much. All right, well, have a good one. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for stopping by.